Commander Ji Woo pressed his hands against the cold metal of the ship's railing and watched the stars disappear one by one. Each vanishing light meant another human ship was gone forever. The bridge of the EU's resilience felt like a tomb now. With only the soft hum of dying engines and the quiet breathing of his remaining crew. "Sir, we're getting the last signals from the Aurora," Lieutenant Hannah said from her station. Her voice was steady, but Ji Woo could see her hands shaking as she worked the controls. They're not responding anymore. Ji Woo closed his eyes for a moment. The Aurora had been Captain Lee's ship. They had served together for 8 years, shared countless meals, and talked about their families back on Earth. Now Lee was gone, along with his crew of 300 good people. "How many ships do we have left?" Shku asked, though he already knew the answer would break his heart. "Just us, sir," came the reply from Ensign Tommen at the weapons station. "The Vorthok destroyed everything else. The entire Outer Rim defense line is gone." The Vorthok. Even thinking their name made Ji Woo's stomach twist with anger and fear. For 3 years, these aliens had moved through human space like a plague, destroying everything in their path. Their ships were faster, their weapons stronger, their shields impossible to break. Every time humanity tried to fight back, they lost more ships, more people, more hope. Ji Woo walked to the main screen and stared at the enemy fleet. The Vorthok ships looked like black daggers against the stars, sleek and deadly. There were dozens of them, each one capable of destroying a human city with a single shot. They moved in perfect formation, never hurrying, never showing mercy. "They're not even trying hard," muttered Chief Engineer Dong Woo as he limped onto the bridge. His uniform was torn and dirty from trying to fix the ship's damaged systems. "They know we can't hurt them. This is just cleanup for them." "We're receiving a transmission from Earth Command," Hannah announced. "They want to speak with you." Q nodded and walked to his captain's chair. The face that appeared on the screen belonged to Admiral Park, a woman who had once seemed so strong and confident. Now she looked tired and old, with dark circles under her eyes. "Ch, Woo," she said, and her voice was barely above a whisper. "Sorry, we've lost contact with all other ships. You're the only one left." "What are your orders, Admiral?" Ji Woo asked, though he knew there weren't many options left. "The Vorthok fleet is moving toward Earth. They'll be here in less than 20 hours. We've prepared the planetary defenses, but ... quotes. She paused, and Ji Woo could see the pain in her eyes. "We both know how this will end. Around the galaxy, other alien species were already talking about humanity's defeat." Q had heard the intercepted communications. The Zentari Republic expressed their deep regret for humanity's situation. The Nexus Confederation offered to remember Earth's contributions to galactic civilization. Cosmic Union promised to honor humanity's sacrifice, but none of them offered to help. None of them sent ships or weapons or even medical supplies. They all watched from a safe distance as humanity burned. "There might be another way," Admiral Park said quietly. "Dr. Kungmin has been working on something. A last option. He calls it the Lazarus Protocol." Ji Woo had heard whispers about Dr. Kyung-min's project. The old scientist had spent his whole life studying alien languages and cultures. He knew more about the galaxy's secrets than almost anyone else. But what could one man do against an entire alien war machine? "What kind of option?" Ji Woo asked. "I can't say over open channels, but if it works, it might change everything. And if it doesn't," quotes Admiral Park's voice trailed off, "well, at least we'll go down fighting." The transmission ended, leaving Ji Woo alone with his thoughts and his dying ship. Through the windows, he could see the Vorthok fleet beginning to move again. They were heading toward Earth, toward the last 3 billion humans in the universe. "Sir," Hannah said softly, "what do we do now?" Ji Woo looked around at his crew. These people had followed him through impossible battles, had trusted him to bring them home safely. Now home was about to be destroyed, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. "We follow them," he said finally. "We can't fight them, but we can watch. We can be witnesses. And maybe." As the Resilience limped after the Vorthok fleet, Ji Woo thought about Dr. Chung-min's mysterious project. The old man had always said that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their weapons or their technology. It was their voices, their ability to speak truth, even when no one wanted to listen. The battle was lost. Earth would fall. But somewhere in the back of his mind, Ji-Woo began to hope that maybe, just maybe, humanity still had one more thing too. Say, Dr. Kuhnman wiped the sweat from his forehead as he walked through the dark tunnels beneath. Seoul. The underground command center felt like a cave lit only by emergency lights that cast strange shadows on the walls. Most of Earth's power had already been shut off to prepare for what might be humanity's final act. The meeting room was cold and quiet when he arrived. General Sung-ho sat at the metal table, his weathered face showing the strain of 3 years of losing battles. Director Minji looked up from her tablet, her eyes red from lack of sleep. Captain Daehyun paced near the wall, his hands clenched into fists. "Tell me you have good news, Doctor," General Sung-ho said. Though his voice suggested he didn't expect any, Kyung-min placed his old briefcase on the table and opened it slowly. Inside were dozens of data chips, each one containing secrets that could destroy governments and topple empires. "I have a plan," he said quietly, "but you're not going to like it." He activated the holographic projector in the center of the table. A 3-dimensional map of the galaxy appeared, showing thousands of star systems connected by trade routes and communication networks. "This is the Lazarus Protocol," he explained. "We take every satellite, every power grid, every communication array on Earth, and combine them into one massive transmission system." Captain Daehyun stopped pacing. "What would we broadcast?" Kyung-min's smile was cold. "Everything. Every secret humanity has gathered in 200 years of diplomacy and trade. Every crime these so-called civilized species have committed and covered up." Director Minji leaned forward. "What kind of secrets?" "The Vorthok didn't just attack us," Kyung-min said, touching the projector controls. Red dots appeared on the map, marking destroyed worlds. "They've exterminated 17 other species in the past 50 years. The Kalani, the Threnody, the Zephyrians all wiped out completely. But the galaxy stayed quiet because the Vorthok are powerful." More dots appeared, showing other systems. "The Zentari Republic runs the largest slave trade in the galaxy. They breed sentient beings like cattle and sell them to the highest bidder. The Nexus Confederation has been testing biological weapons on civilian populations. The hegemony has been secretly poisoning worlds to steal their resources." General Sunjo stared at the map. "How do you know all this?" "'Cause humans are curious," Kyung-min replied. "We ask questions, we keep records, we remember things other species prefer to forget. For 2 centuries, we've been gathering information, not to hurt anyone, but to understand our place in the galaxy. And now you want to use it as a weapon," Captain Daehyun said. "Not a weapon," Kyung-min corrected. "A mirror. We're going to show the galaxy what it really looks like." Director Minji pulled up data on her tablet. The power requirements would be enormous. We'd have to shut down everything else on Earth. The planetary shields, the defense platforms, life support in most cities. "The Vorthok fleet will arrive in 16 hours, General Sungo said. "If we do this, we'll be completely defenseless." "When they get here, we're already defenseless," Kyung-min pointed out. "Our weapons can't pierce their shields, our ships can't match their speed, but we have something they don't expect us to use." "What's that?" asked Captain Daehyun. "The truth?" Kyung-min touched another control, and the map zoomed in on Earth. "Every species in the galaxy has secrets they don't want exposed. The Vorthok government tells their people that they only attack dangerous worlds that threaten galactic peace. What happens when their citizens learn they're actually genocidal? Monsters. They'll unite against us," General Sung-ho said. "Every species in the galaxy will want humanity dead." "Maybe," Kyung-min admitted. "Or maybe they'll be too busy dealing with their own problems to worry about us. When the Zentari people learn their government has been selling slaves, when the Nexus citizens discover their military has been murdering civilians, when the hegemony's colonies realize they've been poisoned by their own leaders." Director Minji understood first. Civil wars, revolutions, the galaxy would tear itself apart. And in the chaos, Kongmin continued, maybe some species will remember that humans never committed genocide. We never ran slave markets or tested biological weapons on innocent people. We kept records of these crimes, but we never participated in them. Captain Dehan shook his head. It's insane. Even if it works, we'll have made enemies of everyone. We're already dead, Kugman said. Simply, the question is whether we die quietly or make sure our deaths mean something. Through the underground facility, they could hear the sounds of Earth cities going dark. Power grids were being redirected, communication arrays were being linked together, and satellites were being reprogrammed. In a few hours, Earth would be completely vulnerable, but capable of speaking to the entire galaxy at once. There's something else, Kunmin said quietly. If we do this, there's no going back. Once these secrets are out, the galaxy will never be the same. General Sung-ho stood up slowly. Doctor, in your opinion, what are our chances? Kyungmin looked at the map showing Earth's darkening cities and the approaching Vorthok fleet. Honestly, I don't know. But sometimes the only way to win is to change the rules of the game. As the meeting ended, each of them knew they were about to make a decision that would either save humanity or ensure their destruction would be remembered forever. The transmission began at exactly 1447 Earth Standard Time, just as the Vorthok fleet crossed Mars' orbit. Communications Officer Hannah sat at her station in the freezing command center, her breath forming small clouds in the air. All of Earth's heating systems had been shut down to channel every bit of power into the massive broadcast array. Signal strength at maximum, she reported, her fingers dancing across the controls even as they grew numb from cold. We're hitting every communication frequency in the galaxy simultaneously. The data flowed like a digital river bursting through a dam. 200 years of carefully gathered intelligence poured into space at the speed of light. Secret diplomatic messages, intercepted military communications, hidden financial records, and documented evidence of crimes that entire civilizations had tried to forget. On the Vorthok flagship, Admiral Varthik stood on his bridge watching Earth grow larger on the main screen. His ship, the Dominion's Fist, was the most powerful vessel in the fleet. In just a few hours, he would give the order to begin bombarding humanity's homeworld. It would be quick and efficient, just like all their previous conquests. His communications officer called out, his voice confused. We're receiving an unusual transmission from the planet. It's on every frequency at once. Ignore it, Varthik ordered. Probably some desperate plea for mercy. These primitive species always try to bargain at the end. But the transmission wasn't a plea. It was a flood of information that began appearing on every screen, every display, every communication device in the galaxy. The first wave contained detailed records of the Vorthok's secret operations. 17 genocides carried out in the past 50 years, all hidden from their own people and the galactic community. Sir, the communications officer said again, his voice now trembling. This isn't a surrender message. They're broadcasting our classified military files. Everything about Operation Silent Cleansing, the Kalani extermination, the Threnody purge. Spun around, his eyes wide with shock. That's impossible. Those files are encrypted beyond anything these humans could break. They're not breaking our encryption, sir. They're broadcasting information they gathered themselves. Surveillance data, diplomatic cables, eyewitness accounts. They've been watching us for decades. Transmission continued, spreading across the galaxy like wildfire. On Zentari Prime, government officials watched in horror as their secret slave breeding programs were exposed in excruciating detail. Markets, locations, financial records, even the names of buyers and sellers were laid bare for all to see. In the Nexus Confederation capital, emergency alarms began blaring as citizens learned about their military's biological weapons testing. The broadcast included video footage of civilian populations being used as test subjects, along with official orders bearing the signatures of their most trusted leaders. The hegemony's colonial worlds received data showing how their own government had been slowly poisoning them to make resource extraction easier. Medical records, Environmental reports, internal memos revealed a conspiracy spanning decades. But the broadcast didn't stop with individual crimes. It revealed the connections between them all, how the Vorthok sold captured populations to Zentari slave markets, how the Nexus Confederation tested weapons on planets the hegemony wanted to exploit, how species throughout the galaxy had formed a silent conspiracy to divide up the universe among themselves. Sir Varthik, tactical officer, reported, "We're receiving emergency communications from Homeworld. There are ... there are riots in the capital. The civilian population is demanding answers about the genocide programs." On Earth, Dr. Kungman stood in the command center, watching the data streams flow outward. His life's work was finally being put to use, not to harm innocent people, but to expose the guilty ones. Around him, technicians worked frantically to maintain the transmission as Earth's power systems strained under the massive load. "The Zentari Republic is going dark," reported one technician. "Their communication networks are being overwhelmed by civil unrest. The Nexus Confederation is calling for emergency sessions," added another. "Their colonial governments are declaring independence." The hegemony, said a third. "Their trade networks are collapsing. Nobody wants to do business with them anymore." Across the galaxy, the same pattern repeated on hundreds of worlds. Governments fell, military leaders were arrested, and entire star systems erupted in revolution. The careful balance of power that had kept the galaxy's secrets hidden for centuries crumbled in a matter of hours. On the Vorthok flagship, Admiral Varthik received another urgent message from his homeworld.
Sir.
"The High Command is ordering all fleets to return immediately. The government is collapsing." There are reports of military units switching sides. "What about the Earth mission?" Varthik asked. "Cancelled, sir. The High Command says we can't spare any resources for conquest right now. We need every ship to maintain order at home." As the Vorthok fleet began to turn away from Earth, Hannah looked up from her station in amazement. "They're leaving," she whispered. "The entire fleet is withdrawing." Dr. Kungman smiled sadly. "Of course they are. They can't conquer anyone when their own people are trying to overthrow them." The broadcast continued for 6 more hours until every secret had been revealed and every lie exposed. When it finally ended, the galaxy was on fire with revolution and change. The old order was dead, destroyed not by weapons or armies, but by the simple power of truth. Earth sat in darkness, defenseless, but somehow safe, surrounded by the chaos they had created by refusing to let evil hide in silence. 6 weeks after the broadcast, Admiral Day Hine stood on the bridge of the UES Phoenix, watching alien ships dock at Luna Station. The sight still amazed him. Ships from dozens of different species, all coming to Earth, not as conquerors, but as guests seeking help. The Phoenix itself was a gift from the Kalani survivors, the few thousand members of their species who had escaped the Vorthok genocide by hiding in deep space. They had painted their traditional blessing symbols on the ship's hull, along with the words, "Never forget," in both Kalani and human languages. Admiral Communications Officer Hannah called from her new station. "We're receiving another delegation request. The Zentari Republic's new government wants to meet with our rehabilitation specialists." Daehyun shook his head in wonder. 3 months ago, the Zentari had been running the galaxy's largest slave trade. Now they were begging Earth for help in freeing their victims and healing the damage they had caused. "Schedule them for next week," he replied, "after the Nexus Confederation talks are finished." Through the viewing ports, he could see the controlled chaos that had become Earth's orbital space. Ships from the former hegemony colonies brought medical supplies as payment for Earth's help in cleaning up their poisoned worlds. Vorthok refugees arrived daily, fleeing the civil war that had torn their empire apart. Director Minji appeared on the bridge, carrying a tablet full of reports. Her new title was Galactic Relations Coordinator, a job that hadn't existed before. The broadcast. "The situation update," she announced. "The Vorthok Empire has officially split into 12 separate factions. 7 of them are at war with each other. What about the others?" Daehyun asked. 3 have declared themselves peaceful republics and are requesting Earth's help in establishing democratic governments. Two are trying to rebuild their military, but can't get resources because nobody trusts them anymore. Dr. Kungmin entered the bridge, looking older, but somehow more energetic than before. His new role as chief mediator kept him busy traveling between worlds, helping former enemies learn to live together peacefully. The Nexus trials are progressing well, he reported. Their new government has agreed to turn over all biological weapons research to a joint commission. They're also offering to share their medical technology with any species that was affected by their experiments, and the hegemony, Daehan asked. Complete collapse, Kyungmin said with a mixture of sadness and satisfaction. Their colonial worlds have formed independent governments. Most are asking for Earth's help in establishing fair trade agreements with their neighbors. What amazed everyone was how quickly the galaxy had changed. The broadcast had revealed that most species' governments had been built on lies and fear. Once those lies were exposed, the ordinary citizens of these worlds had risen up and demanded better leaders. Sir Hannah announced, "We're receiving a priority transmission from the Kalani delegation. They say it's urgent." The main screen flickered to life, showing Ambassador Thalana, one of the few surviving Kalani elders. Her blue skin showed the ritual scars that marked her as a keeper of her people's history. "Admiral Daehan," she said, her voice carrying both hope and worry. "We've discovered something important. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected unusual activity in the outer rim, ships gathering, communications being sent in old military codes." "What kind of ships?" Daehan asked. "Vorthok, hardliners, Zentari military remnants, some hegemony loyalists. They're calling themselves the Restoration Alliance. They want to return the galaxy to the way it was before your broadcast." Leaned forward. "How many ships?" "Perhaps 200 vessels of various sizes. It's not enough to conquer worlds, but enough to cause serious damage. They're targeting species that have allied with Earth." Director Minji pulled up star charts on her tablet. "They're probably hoping to start a war that will unite the galaxy against us, make us the common enemy so they can rebuild their power." "Irony," Daehan said quietly, "is that they're proving exactly why the broadcast was necessary. They can't accept a galaxy based on truth and cooperation." "What do we do?" Hannah asked. Before anyone could answer, more transmissions began arriving. The reformed Zentari Republic was offering to send ships to help protect Earth's allies. The Nexus Confederation's new government promised medical support for any worlds that were attacked. Even some Vorthok factions were volunteering to fight. Against their own former military leaders? "This is what we hoped for," Dr. Kungmin said, watching the offers of help pour in. "A galaxy where species work together instead of keeping secrets from each other." "But will it be enough?" Director Minji asked. "These hardliners are desperate. Desperate people do terrible things." Admiral Daehan looked out at the mixed fleet surrounding Earth. Ships from former enemies now flew together, their crews learning to trust each other. It was messy and complicated, but it was also something beautiful. "We'll find out," he said. But for the first time in 3 years, humanity isn't fighting alone. As if to prove his point, another transmission arrived. This one was from Captain Gi-woo aboard the Resilience, which had been repaired and upgraded with technology donated by grateful alien allies. Admiral Gi-woo reported, "The combined fleet is ready. 67 ships from 19 different species. If the Restoration Alliance wants a fight, we'll give them one they'll never forget." The galaxy was still unraveling, but something new was being woven in its place. 1 year after the broadcast, Director Ji-woo stood in the rebuilt communications center on Earth, watching data streams flow between hundreds of worlds. The same arrays that had once sent humanity's desperate message now maintained something unprecedented. Completely open information network connecting every willing species. In the galaxy, the Vorthok reconciliation trials concluded this morning, Dr. Kungmin reported as he entered the center. His hair had gone completely gray in the past year, but his eyes showed a peace that hadn't been there before. The new Vorthok Republic has agreed to full reparations for all 17 species they destroyed. They're also establishing memorial worlds for each lost civilization. Gi-woo nodded, still amazed by how much had changed. The Vorthok people, once they learned the truth about their government's crimes, had been among the most determined to make things right. Their new leaders were former civilians who had led the revolution against the military regime. "What about the Restoration Alliance?" Jiwoo asked. Completely defeated, came the reply from General Sung-ho as he joined them. "The last of their ships surrendered yesterday. Turns out it's hard to fight a war when everyone in the galaxy can see your battle plans in real time." That had been the key to victory. The open information network meant that secrets were impossible to keep. The Restoration Alliance couldn't plan surprise attacks or spread propaganda because everything they did was immediately visible to everyone else. "The beautiful thing," added Director Minji, reviewing reports on her tablet, "is that transparency has become our greatest defense. No species dares commit crimes when they know the whole galaxy is watching." Through the center's windows, Jiwoo could see Luna Station bustling with activity. Ships from dozens of worlds came and went daily, carrying diplomats, traders, and refugees. The Terran Accords had established Earth as neutral ground where any species could meet safely, knowing that their conversations would be private, but their actions would be public. "Sir," Communications Officer Hannah called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the Kalani Memorial Fleet. They've successfully established the first colony on New Kalani." He smiled. The Kalani had been the first species to benefit from the galaxy's new cooperation. With help from dozens of worlds, they had found a new planet and were slowly rebuilding their civilization. Their population was growing again, with children being born who would never know the fear their parents had lived with. "And the Zentari rehabilitation programs?" Gi-woo asked. "Ahead of schedule," Dr. Kielman replied. "They've freed over 2 million slaves and established education centers on 40 worlds. The former slave populations are being integrated into their new society as full citizens." The transformation of the Zentari Republic had been one of the most dramatic changes in the galaxy. Their people had been horrified to learn about the slave trade and had worked tirelessly to undo the damage. Many former government officials had volunteered for the most dangerous jobs in the rehabilitation effort, trying to earn redemption through service. The Nexus Confederation has completed the destruction of their biological weapons stockpiles, General Sung-ho reported. Their former research facilities have been converted into medical centers that serve species throughout their region. "And the hegemony's former colonies?" Giwoo asked. "Thriving," Minji said with satisfaction. "The Independent Worlds Alliance has become one of the most prosperous regions in the galaxy. Amazing what happens when you don't poison your own people." Soft chime indicated another incoming transmission. The main screen showed Ambassador Thalana, representing the Galactic Cooperation Council, a new organization that had grown from the ashes of the old power structures. "Director Ji-woo," she said, "I have wonderful news. The Council has voted unanimously to establish the Galactic Truth Archive on Earth. It will be a permanent repository of information, ensuring that the crimes of the past are never forgotten and cannot be repeated." "We're honored," Ji-woo replied. "But are you sure Earth is the right place for it?" Thalana's expression grew serious. "Director, in the darkest hour of galactic history, when evil seemed to triumph everywhere, only humanity had the courage to speak truth to power. You saved us all by refusing to let injustice hide in silence." After the transmission ended, Ji-woo walked the observation deck overlooking Earth's night side. The planet blazed with lights again, but they were different now. These weren't the desperate lights of a world preparing for war, but the warm glow of a planet that had become the galaxy's heart. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't made the broadcast?" Hannah asked, joining him at the observation window. "Sometimes," Ji-woo admitted. "But then I remember that silence was what allowed all those crimes to continue. The Vorthok genocide, the Zentari slave trade, the Nexus biological weapons. Evil thrives when good people say nothing." "And now?" she asked. Gi-woo looked out at the stars, where ships from hundreds of worlds traveled freely, carrying goods and ideas and hopes for the future. "Now we have a different kind of silence. The peaceful quiet of a galaxy that finally knows the truth about itself." In the distance, the memorial lights of Luna Station flickered in patterns that honored the lost civilizations. The Kalani, the Threnody, the Zephyrians, and all the others who had died in silence. Their names would never be forgotten again. The battle had been lost, But humanity had won something far more valuable than victory. It won the right to ensure that truth would always have a voice in the galaxy. The new silence was the sound of justice finally being served.